Miss Kobayashi's Dragon Maid is a slice-of-life comedy anime based off of a manga series from the creator of Peach Boy Riverside. I just learned about this anime a few weeks ago after watching a video that was covering some of the new shows coming out this summer. As I watched the video, there were a couple things that stood out to me: the animation and the art style. I thought it looked cool and decided that I might give it a shot one day whenever I got nothing else to watch. Fast forward to last week, I was bored, so I decided to finally give the show a chance. I just finished rewatching the series over the last couple of days to prepare for this review, and to be honest, I couldn't think of a single negative thing to say about it. For those that are unfamiliar with the show, the series follows the life of a programmer named Kobayashi and a group of dragons that slowly integrate into human society. One day, as Kobayashi is about to leave her apartment to go to work, she discovers that there's a dragon at her door. Turns out she got drunk the night before and saved the dragon that had been injured in a battle against gods. The dragon Toru had no place to stay, so Kobayashi offered to let Toru live with her. Toru decides to repay Kobayashi for saving her by becoming her maid. Shortly after Toru begins living with Kobayashi, more dragons from her world begin showing up and start living in the human world. One of which being Kana, a young dragon who was banished from her world after pulling a prank. Kana decides to stay with Kobayashi, and the three of them begin a new life together. Prior to Kana and Toru arriving, Kobayashi lived a very dull life. Whereas Toru is cheerful and spirited, Kobayashi doesn't have a lot of energy due to being overworked. Unlike Toru, she isn't very sociable and typically speaks her mind only when she's drunk. Naturally, as they continue to live together, they become closer and curious about each other's lives. It's established early on that Toru has had a terrible experience dealing with humans from her world, and this surfaces early on as a nightmare. Toru's previous encounter with humans and the teachings from her father causes her to fear that the humans from Earth will reject her. There is a brief nerve-wracking scene early on that perfectly showcases her dread of persecution. While she will always cling to her superiority as a dragon on the surface, deep down she just wants to be accepted by people. This show tackles the theme of prejudice, and its messaging is very straightforward. Ultimately, what the author is trying to convey throughout the story is the idea of embracing those that are different from us. Instead of outright dismissing someone or a certain group of people, be willing to try to understand them. This isn't anything groundbreaking, as I've seen plenty of anime and family films tackle this theme. Some family films even have the same kind of messaging, with the only difference being it's usually delivered in a more simplified way. The writing isn't heavy-handed, nor does it come across as preachy, and they don't stop the story frequently to touch on the theme. There is a scene during the final act where Kobayashi's dialogue directly encapsulates the story's central message. The author utilizes characters like Toru's father and Fafnir, a dragon who hates humans, to explore the main theme. Aside from the series' excellent handling of its theme, the characters and comedic moments are generally well written. I really love the cast of characters and enjoyed the many interactions between them. I think the author perfectly captures the typical behavior of a child with the cute and curious Kana. He nails the little things like her gleefully stomping in the rain, playing with her food, and struggling to stay awake while sitting at a table. Even the way that she craves for Kobayashi's attention. There were a couple of times where she either does or says something that isn't so childlike, and it caught me off guard. As Kana attends school, she befriends Saikawa, a girl who initially comes off as cocky and tends to irritate her classmates. There is a Yuri element to this show where Toru likes Kobayashi and Saikawa develops feelings for Kana. Thankfully, it's not done in a way that is obnoxious or potentially alienating, and is part of the comedy. For instance, Saikawa gets overly excited whenever she makes physical contact with Kana. There are some occasional funny scenes where Toru starts being creepy, one of which being her smelling Kobayashi's clothes. There's also this running joke where Toru tries to get Kobayashi to eat her tail, which never gets old. One character that I initially didn't expect to like is the former goddess Lukua. I wasn't a big fan of her design at first, especially her abnormally huge, jiggling breasts, which made me think that she's just there for fan service. While the series does have its fair share of fan service in it, Lukua isn't just there to contribute to it. Lukua's interactions with a young mage named Shota are freaking hilarious. Without spoiling anything, Shota is initially afraid of her because he thinks she's a demon. He's also uncomfortable around her due to Lukua's body and how she's dressed. I love how carefree and easygoing Lukua is, and the inappropriate way she dresses totally fits her personality. The character is a perfect contrast to Shota, who is usually nervous but also has integrity. This series has plenty of amusing visual gags, and several of them involve those two characters. It's very rare that a joke doesn't land, but when it does, it probably involves a dragon named Elma. Elma and Toru are from two opposing factions of dragons that are at odds with one another. Elma comes to the human world believing that Toru's up to no good, and unfortunately finds herself stuck on Earth. I was expecting to like this character a lot more given her entertaining introduction as she tries to get Toru to return home. Unfortunately, there isn't much that this character really brings to the table besides the additional lore pertaining to the other world, which seems interesting. Aside from her occasional bickering with Toru and assimilating into human society, Elma is mostly a walking trope. The author incorporates a typical food trope that you've likely seen in other shows and movies similar to this. A being from another world tries some of our food and now they can't get enough of it. Basically, Elma is one of those bottomless pit characters that loves to eat and try new food. Another supporting character introduced early in the season is Takia, Kobayashi's friend from work. He's a big otaku who doesn't have a lot of people he can share his love for nerdy stuff with. Fafnir eventually becomes someone he can be himself around, while Takia makes him realize that there are some humans worth his time. The characters are brought to life by an outstanding voice cast and the incredible animation produced by Kyoto Animation. The performances that stood out to me were Sarah Wiedenheft as Toru, Jade Saxon as Kana, and Jamie Marchi as Lukua. The production on this series is top notch. Kyoto Animation has left one heck of a first impression on me. I definitely need to look at some of their other work. The animation in this series has no business looking this good. There are a few scenes where the animators just go all out and it looks phenomenal. Not only is the animation fluid, but it's also very detailed. One quick example I can give of this is how Toru's eyes are animated while in her dragon form. I don't think I've seen an animated dragon that looks as good as what I've seen in this show. The animators seem to know when to let loose, and the few times that they do, it really helps to convey just how powerful the dragons are. All in all, Miss Kobayashi's Dragon Maid is a fantastic series with memorable and likable characters, tons of funny moments, outstanding animation, and a fun but meaningful story. I definitely recommend checking this show out if you haven't already. But if you have seen the show, let me know what you guys thought about it in the comment section below. As always, thank you guys for watching. I'm out of here. Peace.